All right, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for Beastars Season 2, Episode 5. We said goodbye to Jack.
Yeah.
And Juno has showed up at the club.
Yep.
Louis has had an interesting encounter with a herbivore who is an adult dancer.
Right. Yeah. That whole situation that was rather interesting. But then we also had the situation of why you always lying, Louis. You know.
Why you always wait? He's a deer though.
Yeah, but he's a deer. You know,
he's a deer liar.
If we get Stardust Captain Shakespeare stuff with Louis, I would be so happy. I would be so.
We always knew you were a veggie.
A veggie. yeah. Right. Yeah.
Oh my god. But y'all, without further ado, let's get into this. Alright everyone, now be sure to go check out the reaction portion of the video in the description below, then come back here for the discussion. Okay.
All right. So, a few things happened this episode.
Yeah, quite a few things touching on everyone basically but Haru. So
yes.
So okay. First thing is we got basically Louis bookended focus this episode. So we'll start with the bit with Juno because it's the carryover from
the previous
last episode's little cliffhanger there.
Yep.
Which I'm very glad that they immediately went to cover that as well, because that was a really big deal that Juno actually left the school, came to essentially what would be the equivalent of a gang's kind of like headquarters, and was like, hey, I want to speak to your boss.
Right. The fact that she actually showed up at the end of the previous episode, it surprised me, not just from the standpoint of the cliffhanger, but also because it didn't seem like something that the old Juno would have done. And Juno has been kind of different this season, but I feel like once I got to actually see them interacting, I started to understand why Juno was here. Because
it's not that she's that different, actually.
okay.
Go ahead.
Well, so in the first season, she was very, very competitive, right? It was the whole thing of, okay, Louis, you're going to try and be the next Beastar. Well, I'm going to be the next Beastar, right? You know, Legosi, I'm going to make you mine, you know, all that stuff, right? And now the competition has kind of gone away from her in various different ways and for various reasons, right? With Legosi, it's because, okay, she knows that he likes Haru, right? So darn, right? And then Louis, he just straight up left the school. So she doesn't really have a competition for Beastar anymore, and she hasn't, given that we haven't been seeing her focus on it in the show, it almost gives me the sense that she might not care as much about it anymore because, well, I don't have a strong opponent that I'm basically wresting it from, so what's the point?
Yeah, that doesn't fly with me. I think that her motivations and stuff were basically based in some level of reality. That she believed that she was doing something so that carnivores and herbivores could live together in some way, shape, or manner that would be better than where it is right now.
Sure.
And she mentioned that as much in this part of the episode here. So I think that at the very least, Louis was more of a hero to her.
Sure.
And Louis being gone feels like something where she's like, but wait, what do you know that I don't? Why did you give up? You who are even more for this than I am. Did you find something? It felt like she was kind of probing him to see if she would get some kind of knowledge, wisdom, or understanding, not just with regards to who he is now, but what happened to him to make him do this. And he kind of, I would say, not condescends to her, but he kind of treats her a little bit like a kid.
Yes.
He kind of speaks to her in this kind of air of distance. I don't know how to describe it.
Well, and that's why I think she's so concerned because here's this thing that was really important to her, might still be really important to her, and he's all of a sudden treating it like it's nothing, right? When it was something that he used to strive for. What gives? Yeah, what gives there? Like the fact that he was the one that she would basically have to beat because he was the #1 candidate for Beastar, right? And she made that whole declaration of, I'm going to beat you, you know, pushed him to the ground and all that stuff. Now he's saying, not only am I not going to try for it, I kind of don't even really see it as being worth it. Yeah, I don't really want it. So then it's okay, well, what have you found exactly that's so much better? Because it can't be this, right? Like, this isn't it, right? You know, being a mob boss, like, that doesn't. I wouldn't have pegged you as that kind of a deer.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah, and we learn a little bit about how she was brought out to this point to come out here because of
how
what
she
he
pieced
said,
it together, and
because of what he said at the carnival right before everything went down, basically that night. And he starts to see right through her in that she's actually been, through a bit in the last little bit of things here, and that Legosi did actually kind of break her heart.
It didn't go. Things haven't been going well for her.
Right. But there was this part here where she starts to see him in a highlight of blue here.
Yep.
Where his smile is something that is so genuine and so pure that she says, "You look even more graceful than you did before." And I think what it is that it's Louis living honestly, and he actually is free, right? And thus, his countenance betrays his internal state.
Right.
So, the idea that he still believes in something, and yet he is delving into the darkness or the evil
the
of
polar
society.
opposite of what he was going for originally.
Right. So thus, in some ways, she's kind of saying, well, then you must be choosing something. And you have to be. Otherwise, you're just letting yourself get drenched in society and take away your choice and what have you. And yet, we know, based on what Louis said to himself in the end of the first season, that he's going to let himself be swallowed and be devoured by the darkness of society. He's going to go into the depths of it and let it just consume him entirely until there's nothing left. Because I think what he realized was that he had been living a lie. He had been living a fake life. And he wanted all that to be completely devoured. So
he wanted something genuine.
Yeah, he wanted something genuine so that he would be reduced back to zero and start to build himself back up again. And I think he found that there was a lot more than just zero once whatever he had devoured was devoured. So now he's actually walking in who he is. He's like, I like this. This person who I am actually thrives here. There's something that's like other than the issues with the meat and stuff like that.
Yeah, and he
was made for this.
Right, that's a new hurdle that he has to deal with, face and things like that, right? And and that's also probably like it's another example of why he probably treats her like a kid, because it's the quaint struggles. It's the university student that hears a high schooler complain about like how busy they are or whatever, and it's like, oh, you sweet summer child,
or the parent hearing the university student talk about how like how
and it's
little time they have.
Oh boy,
yeah, exactly.
Right. And in this situation, because Juno can see that Louis is still moving towards something, that he still is that same person that she originally thought he was, right? And in a sense, he is more himself than he ever was. That is attractive, whether you're talking about romantically or just from the standpoint of I want some of what you have. That's important, right? And he still does things like dancing with her and things like that, right? He's not completely like distancing himself from her or anything.
I think he is kind of emotionally distancing himself from her, though. I think that this is kind of the thing of being like, yeah, I'll play act and be the senpai from school and stuff and give you a little bit of tips and training on dance and stuff like that. I don't think it has anything romantic to do from him other than it's like, this is what we did because you were the person that was kind of up and coming and needed a little bit of help with the coordination side of things for the dancing.
I don't think it's romantic from Louis' end either yet, but... And this is, I tend to be a shipper, but also there was the end. By the end of the conversation, they both got a happy ending, in a way.
Oh, really? That she ran away crying and selling baka and stuff, and she got a happy ending?
She was able to express herself, and Louis was able to receive what she expressed. If anything, she wasn't fully able to receive what Louis expressed, but she didn't completely reject it. It was something where it's I'm still grappling with it, I don't fully understand it. And Louis got to the point where it's oh yeah, you are a very respectable person, right? So so he realizes that yes, while I am out of high school and all of that stuff, and while the conflicts and the troubles and the tribulations and all that stuff of high school seems so distant to me now, why would I want to be on a stage illuminated by such cheap lights? This girl's legit. This girl's legit.
Yeah. In that respect, that's why I don't think she's changed, is that she's very much held true exactly to the things that she talked about before. She stayed consistent. So the same girl that went out here to chase after him to find out why did you give up, and then thus yells at him for being a baka and stuff, because her vision of how you would end up benefiting society is by not letting society control you, but by you deciding to choose something that fights back against society.
The reason why I would say it feels at least to me like she absolutely has changed is because she is orders of magnitude more docile than she was in the first season.
Yeah, but we've seen her have the capacity and range to be the persona that she needs to fit the situation that she's in.
Sure, but I would say that my impression of this is that she's basically had a slight crisis of identity, because kind of everything that she wanted, she ended up not being able to get.
Yeah.
And she still could theoretically become Beastar, but she's questioning how valuable it even is at this point, right? So coming here, it's part to confront Louis, but it's also part to confront herself, because there's certain insecurities and stuff that are rising up, and she doesn't know how to deal with them, right?
Right. I think that's the point in where she'll change, is that she confronts herself because she hasn't changed necessarily. It's basically the acknowledgement of, this big thing happened. How do I respond to that? Because I'm going to respond in some way, but I haven't resolved what that's going to look like.
Sure,
yet.
The weaknesses within myself have been made apparent, and now I need to figure out what I'm going to do about it.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's where I think she will launch forward from that, from this place where Louis has basically said, "Go. You have all the capacity to do that. You've grown in that." You're more capable and willing to do that.
And that's why I think she got a happy ending to the conversation.
Okay.
Because even though with regards to the whole thing with Louis is still a baka and he frustrates her and things like that. Yeah. With regard to her own personal journey, this was a win. This was progress.
I see. Yeah. Because Louis is in this situation because of a myriad of things that she's unaware of. There's a lot of stuff with Louis that we get as the benefit of the audience that she doesn't have, and her perspective shows him as having been the winner, so to speak, of society now. So in that respect, his choices felt very much like he was able to shape society to his will, especially at the high school, because of how much he had won already. So by him throwing all that away, his priority system in her mind has completely swapped.
Right. Yeah, and that's why there's the disconnect of keep going.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah. The disconnect basically of who he is now, because he seems to be doing better, and yet everything that he's doing, the ideals that he has now,
seem to be different.
Seem like some part of him has been broken.
Right.
And which seems whole.
Which is partially true in that I would say when he had his confrontation, not really confrontation, but we had that conversation with the mayor, the politician guy who basically said, this is the way things work. Yeah. It's all corrupt.
Cow.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That was, I think, the moment where he realized, I can't live like that.
Right. And that's why he went away, fully being aware that he thought he was going to die, right? Like when it got to the point and he shot the boss and everything, and then the other lions came in, like, they could have killed him there.
Oh, they totally could have,
Like, he actually got lucky that they were realizing we do kind of need a new leader,
Right, so he got the fate dealt him a really good hand.
Right, serendipitous moment.
To give him the opportunity to be reborn. Right. But what I think he found was that when he's reborn, not actually that much of him was completely consumed away. It's just that he's now in an entirely different environment where it doesn't bend to his will, and yet so much of it in some ways is pushing him along to be like, no. We want you to succeed in this. We will help you succeed in this. The lion that's kind of his number two, giving him that extra push here.
Backing him up when he's not even around. He's not just that kid, he's the boss.
Right.
If you ever think about eating him or taking a bite of him, you'll be the one we eat. That's great. That's good stuff. And Louis, in a lot of ways, this is the result of him holding to the ideals that he had when he was bought by his father, of going to kill himself when he was put in the room with the carnivores, rather than actually let them eat him, right?
So now he's let them eat him in some ways.
Right, exactly. Or he did the thing that he would thought, if the carnivore at the end of season 1 wasn't the actual carnivores, it was the mayor, right? So then he goes to the carnivores and he's like, all right, I would rather die than eat me,
Yeah.
And then, turns out someone extends a helping hand.
Yeah.
Someone saves him.
And now his desire for strength is something that he will gain by using everything that has been dealt to him to the utmost.
Right.
So what's exciting about that is then Louis isn't really caged by society anymore and can then go to his father with a gun and say, sign this and get me out of the school.
Right.
Like, I am strong here. I can do this.
And what I love about
really
this
exciting
is that while all of that is true, Juno still makes the point of, you say that you're free from society, yet all these decisions that you're making are based around what you see society as being. So are you truly free from it, or are you living in response to it?
I think that she, again, you have to know that she's like not aware of everything that he's doing
She's
here.
coming into this with her own emotional baggage and limited perspective. And
it's entirely the limited
like
perspective, I mean, I would say for the most part here, because she doesn't know any of the decisions that he's making. All she knows is that he's left the school,
and he's now
a member of the
leader of the Leo group. Right.
Yeah, the leader there.
But when she says that, that was the thing that makes him be like, after she runs away, she's like, you know, you may still cry like a kid, but you're pretty respectable, you know. So there was a part of what she said that resonated with him a bit.
Right, and I think that's partially the reminder that he is not strong yet.
Ooh, right. Because that's why
showing...
he still tries to do the vitamins and hide it.
Yeah.
Because true strength would not be, you know, because that's still the part of the stage performer, right?
Exactly.
Where I'm going to be the actor, I'm going to don the mask, right? And that's why the whole thing with his number 2 is going to be so important for his growth as a person, is because then he'll realize, no. True strength is, I'm going to
own it.
I'm going to eat vegetables.
Right,
I'm going to eat my salad right in front of all the carnivores eating their steaks.
Yep. Exactly.
And no one will do a damn thing about it.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exciting. Okay, so Juno, Louis stuff, fantastic. Legoshi, though, takes the cake for the whole thing this episode.
Talk about hardcore training. So, my God.
So he's active sun up to sundown, basically.
Yep.
He's spending just enough time to sleep in there. But other than that...
Trying to sleep in a room with a side of beef.
He is fully going monk with this here.
Oh, yeah.
He even called himself a Zen wolf.
Right.
So, as he meditates basically on the idea that he will kill his lusts and his desires, one of the things that I am really excited about this, and which is why I think Haruhi was intentionally not put in this episode, is because if he thinks about Haruhi, he has to maybe question... Did I say Haruhi?
Yeah.
Haru, sorry. Whatever.
Yeah.
Haru, then he might realize that a little bit of his lust, desire, passion, love for her has lessened because she is a herbivore.
Oh.
And that makes it really awkward. Now, that's a bit of a reach, but
there was that part at the end of season 1 where he was like, my prey, and then he's like, oh shit, wait.
Right, exactly. That's probably what makes this whole thing a little bit more dangerous and exciting than just a genuine love connection, because he does genuinely love her.
Right.
It's just the question of, can you genuinely love someone while also having the feelings of, oh, there's also this other side of me that I cannot ignore, that is always present and there, and if I'm going to be the one that both acts in my instincts but also suppresses my specific instinct for meat.
Takes control of them,
can I master myself?
Right.
And yet also utilize the parts that I'm going to master that can't be used in these certain ways.
Right. And I think an example of how Legoshi still has a ways to go as far as growing and as a person and everything is that he doesn't foster the connection with Haru, right? Because in a lot of ways it's something where he is like his approach to Haru certainly in season 1 and still kind of in season 2 has come from a place of fear. Right? In season 1, it was I don't want to eat this bunny, but at the same time, I want to spend time with her, and all that stuff, right? Now, it's the thing of I want to make sure that I am kind of that best me that I can be for Haru, and I believe that she's kind of a distraction, right? So, I believe I'm a
paradox.
I'm afraid that if I actually think about her, I foster the connection, I won't have the strength to do what needs to be done, kind of a thing. Right?
So who are you doing this for, Legoshi?
Who are you doing this for?
Who are you doing this for?
Because...
Because I hope you're doing it for you. Actually.
Me too.
But I think that's the
I think
thing
that's
where
the
you're,
problem right now.
Where the problem is actually that you are trying to make yourself think you're doing this for Haru, but you're actually doing it for you, which is going to lead you into self-deception, which means you will ultimately lose Haru if you continue along this path.
Exactly. Like I mentioned in one of the episodes of season 1 fairly early on, I think when they were at the cafeteria, that theoretically the show could have ended there, right? Like, you know, if they managed to have that understanding, then yay, happy ending, there you go, right? But but life is a lot more complicated, and especially in this particular situation because of society and because the characters have a lot to grow and, you know, and things like that. And this is something where we basically had the biggest, hardest, toughest, weirdest layer that we peeled back in season 1 of this onion. But there's a lot more layers to it, right? And because Legosi isn't actually fully communicating with Haru, it'll take a lot longer than it has to, right? You know,
which makes sense.
Which makes sense, yeah.
People in general
consistent with his flaws and things like that.
Right. People in general also don't over-communicate; they under-communicate.
Yes.
So in this case here, Legosi will come back to Haru at some point.
Yeah, weeks
and be
later,
like, look at the results of all this effort that I did, and she's going to be like, I haven't seen you in like weeks.
Right. She'll be like, "Oh, you changed your fur and everything."
But, like, you were only giving me like few word responses.
Right. Like I would not be surprised at all if he sees her again. His fur's all different, but it's been so long that he completely forgot about that change, you know? And then she's like, "Oh, you look so different." And he's like, "Oh, yeah, I guess that's right." You know. It's like,
right.
Do you actually want to grow into a better person? Or do you want to grow into a better person alongside her?
Well, the thing is that that's not a mutually exclusive thing. Like, it's not. Like, one is just a more focused version of the other.
Yeah, totally. But right now he's doing it separate.
Right. And I think that the reason for that, that's why I leapt ahead so much with the idea that the reason why he's not doing it is because Haru is his prey in some small percentage of his mind.
Yeah.
And if he spends time with her while he's doing all this stuff, it will stir up the feelings of that, you know.
Sure.
And then it will undo his training, which means that he needs to redefine the relationship he has with Haru, which means in no small sense of the word, he will have to take a step back from the relationship.
Yeah, in a lot of...
That is healthy. That is healthy.
Yeah. I mean, technically, it's not even a relationship. Like it's a relationship because it's a connection between people. But
yeah, of course,
they're not dating or anything. And if he is able to reduce it back to a blank slate, like a true kind of blank slate,
that's not possible because there's two people.
Well, right. But from his side of things, with regards to the whole thing of her being prey and things like that, then maybe he'll be able to. Connect with her in a way that's truly trying to connect with her rather than with the idea of her that he has in his head.
Okay,
because I feel like
I think we're off in the weeds a little bit here because I'm following you a little bit, but I think there were a couple jumps that I can't follow you with.
Like because Haru is tied to his ideals, I feel like he's not always seeing her, right?
Okay.
And that's why at the end of season 1 he started talking about society and getting stronger when really she just wanted him to take her hand, you know.
Yeah.
Like that's I feel like that's the sum up of Legoshi's problem.
Right.
And that's why
see the strength that he already has as being sufficient and enough.
Right.
He keeps
Right. And if you want to wait until you're perfect, that's great, but no one ever gets to be perfect. And then hey, that's a choice, but it doesn't sound like a choice that'll include Haru necessarily.
Yeah. So Legoshi's journey will be about basically learning to channel his instincts into mastery of himself, basically.
Yep.
So he needs to utilize his instincts
to
master his instincts, which that's a bit of a
It's
circle.
a pickle.
But I like that it's a parallel with Louis here in that Louis will maybe, in some ways, actually go back eventually. I'm just use it twice. To the point where he's okay with just being a deer.
Right.
And then, just be honest with himself. Because he's really close. And I mean, he's really close.
Yeah, he's doing real good.
There's a couple aspects of the actor still that we see in there.
That is definitely there. But also, he's got someone specifically close by that will help him towards that end.
I'm so excited for his character.
Oh yeah. Oh, I know. Like he is.
I'm already guessing at why he's so invested in this because it has to be more than just him being the boss.
Yeah, like if I
There has to be more to it.
I feel like ever since like episode 3 or 4, like Louis's basically been my favorite character. Like I love Legosi
Of season 1.
Of season 1.
Yeah,
and
that
I
makes
think
sense.
and I think he's shaping up to be my favorite character of season 2 as well. I love Louis, or I love Legosi, I love Hara, but yeah, Louis stuff
Louis stuff feels a little bit
more dynamic.
well, no. I think the difference is I'm gonna frame Legoshi stuff in the negative here for a second. I think Legoshi stuff is limited by it being in the school.
Sure.
And you very much, I think, appreciate the idea that Louis is the free character thus far. And Legoshi's whole struggle is that he will never truly be free in the story sense.
Right.
Until he kind of almost has his finale.
Yeah.
Like that's
Right.
his whole struggle is just learning how to be free in it.
And that's why I think side characters in general, that there's just things that you can do with side characters that you can't do in quite the same ways with main characters. Because since the story is about the main character's story, you know that once their story is done, the story is done, right? So you know, you can't
Usually, yeah, that's how it works.
You can't throttle things up too fast, you know, because then the story just ends faster. It ends sooner, right? Whereas with Louis, because he's that side character.
Well, Louis is a main character. Louis is not a side character. Juno's a side character.
No, because he is one of the core characters, but not the main character, right?
No, I know, but he is, like, there's a 3 main characters
yeah,
set up
totally.
here.
But, like, his story could end long before the show ends.
I disagree.
Okay.
I disagree. I think that this...
Well, it could. Not that it will, but it could.
No, I understand. But the way this story has been set up is thus such that Louis will be the main character alongside Legoshi, in some ways even more than Haru, because they share...
anime.
Yeah, because they share the parallel goals of learning to channel both sides of themselves toward their ultimate goals. Haru does not have an ultimate goal.
Right. In a lot of ways.
And that's to her detriment, but it is also something that if they wanted to remind us that it's a trio dynamic with her, bring back up the things in season 1 that were a part of her goal, but they were more a part of a thing that went beyond her survival.
Yeah, I feel like because Haru doesn't have, you know, like any big crazy goals or anything, that makes it so that it's you know, it's bad in the sense of her screen time, right? Because there's not as many reasons for her to be on screen. But from the standpoint of her growth as a character, she doesn't have as many big issues to sort of wrestle with.
She's more mature than
so
the two of them.
she's more mature. She's happier. Like she could just be. Like she is basically. That's what we can assume is happening more or less when she's not on screen, is that she's just living a happy life, and that's why I wish that, you know, Legoshi would, you know, go and just be happy with her, but he's not at that place right now.
Yeah, Legoshi does not have the capacity currently to find happiness within himself,
right?
And thus he is searching for things out there in the world. He is making choices rather than letting society, you know, dictate those for him.
Yeah.
Which is the part about him that I would say Juno finds the most attractive, despite the fact that he's also just another wolf, and he is a good-looking boy.
Oh, and his fur's all different now.
I loved that moment where she just kind of was like, oh my god, he's so stylish and hot. Like, I love that it was also entirely in her head.
Yes.
Because she's so self-conscious
and
about
she
the fact
turns,
that she is
she
crazy
turns to her
about
locker,
him.
you know, like opens up her locker and everything,
Like,
so that way, like, no one will see her freak out. Yeah.
Right. That was wonderful. But speaking of hot boys, Pina coming in with the seduction.
Yes.
This boy
turn off the lights.
Yeah,
you can bite me all you want.
Yeah, this boy has, in some ways, the most, like...
horny.
Yes. But I would say he had the most, like, non-romantic seduction kind of thing he could do for Legoshi here.
Yeah.
Is that he's basically like, hey, you know what? It really all does come down to instincts. Everything in life is sex.
Right.
Do you want the nature metaphor or the sex metaphor? Yeah, it's like, well, when two animals have sex. Yeah. Pina is basically that, but with I'm 15 and this is deep kind of situation. Because he's basically coming in with the idea that, hey, can you answer a question for me? why is it that people say that just because, you've been with multiple, people or
That's
whatever.
bad.
That's insincere.
Oh,
I love the idea
uh-huh.
of sincerity
Yeah.
because it ties back to the other characters with being honest to themselves.
Sure.
And he's saying, I actually am perfectly honest with myself.
Yes.
But what they're talking about seems to be something where I'm supposed to be sincere to them.
Right.
Which he's like, doesn't that
Yeah.
feel like a weird moral that's like,
Well,
when does that ever served us? And it's like, okay, you did the I'm 15, this is deep thing.
Right.
All morals have no meaning.
He's halfway there in that.
Okay.
Well, in that he's sincere with himself. That's great. Now be sincere with your partner so that they know that there's multiple, and then
but that's
you
the thing.
you can reach an understanding.
But that's the thing. You can't be sincere with others until you're sincere with yourself.
Definitely.
So,
yes.
So, this is the point of where Pina is actually like adding something to the episode beyond just the
hey
baby,
Yeah.
like hey, bite me,
Right.
There's something about the way Legosi and Louis are starting to figure out how to be sincere with themselves and actually go into that. But their reasons for things, they're slightly confused
It's complicated.
on them. It's complicated, right?
Yeah.
So Pina is almost giving him a little bit of a bite of wisdom, if you will,
Sure.
by being like, hey, you can be sincere for yourself, sincere to yourself for the sake of yourself, Legosi.
It's true.
You don't have to make it about Haru. You can just be your own person, growing and evolving and building upon yourself, and she will gain something by that just because you're working on you.
And really, that will be the way to make any progress that you make more solid. Because if you're Legosi doing this kind of stuff for Haru, but it's also for himself, but doesn't fully admit that, that's good. That helps galvanize him into action, so that way he's not in full suppression mode how he was in the first season, right? That's good.
I mean, yeah, he's just actively choosing suppression as the means by which he can control his instincts.
Well,
I just love the irony of it.
I mean, I think what he's doing now isn't suppression exactly.
Well, I know, it's not exactly that thing, but it is a form of it. It's I will be the Zen master. I will stare the thing. It's the same fear therapy thing where you drop yourself in the fear of the thing that you're afraid of, so that you can.
It's
defeat
suppressing.
it.
It's suppressing with regards to society and his environment. It is not suppressing with regards to himself. He's staring the thing in the face. He is acknowledging that side of himself, and he's wrestling with it. He is actively stoking it in a contained environment, so that way he can deal with it. Right.
Right. But if he then wins, he wins by suppressing the side of him that wants to eat the meat.
I disagree.
Okay.
Splitting hairs, but
I am ultimately.
But with regards, but the thing is that because he's doing it as a result of Haru, right? That's kind of it's a decision that's being made because of outside circumstances, right? And if you're wanting to truly be Zen and have self-mastery, then it really does need to come from inside.
Yeah.
Otherwise it can just become suppression, right? Where it's the for the sake of, others out there, right? I will push this thing down, as opposed to no. I accept this part of myself,
right?
And I know that it has no place in my day-to-day interactions.
I love how Pina just goes, wait, all these things, is this mental illness? And it's just like, it always has been.
Yep.
Like, Legosi has been in this struggle, in this situation, since the beginning of the show. Like, ever since we've seen him. We've never seen him in a point having mastery over this.
Right.
So, I just love that he's using what he knows, ultimately, to be kind of this method. When Gohin basically said, I didn't force you down this method. You chose this.
Yeah, that's true.
So
that's true.
That's why I don't entirely agree with his methods here. They're a bit circular, and it's something that I feel like will lead to him at some point killing someone.
Oh, okay.
It's something where he will use those teeth, those fangs.
I think eventually he will, but I don't think it'll be because of some instinctual outburst.
Well, like that would be the hope, right? Your outburst in what you're saying is we're talking about a lack of control.
Right.
Outburst in what I'm talking about is something where it's just I channel all of my energy into this one bite.
Right.
And I kill someone.
Yep.
That is an outburst. It's just measured.
Right.
It's
yeah.
It's just directed.
Right. He controls it rather than it controlling him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And thus I I love when these types of conflicts get brought up in stories, because the character who is trying to take the thing that has been beating them and beat it to the point where now they have control over it, then says, okay, but later I'm going to use that thing that I've beat down and use it with its fullest strength to take what I want or to protect who I care about. Yeah. And it's like,
that's integration of the shadow.
It is integration of the shadow. Yeah, absolutely integration of the shadow. But I don't think Legosi is that self-aware necessarily.
Maybe not consciously, like that he would think through all the steps and all that stuff, but I think, well, maybe instinctually, like he knows that if he wants to truly survive and thrive in this society, he has to beat this somehow, and this is the only way that comes to mind. I will face it again and again and again. I won't be scared of it. I will know exactly how it influences me and how it doesn't. And then maybe he'll get to a point where it's not a huge problem anymore.
I love how his choice though is directly going against everything though that Gohin says that society does in this measure. Is that soldiers and athletes just all eat herbivores.
Yep.
Not necessarily living ones.
Right. Dark market, but like dark market people meat. That died or whatever, things like that.
If you want to build your body, Legosi, you're going to need them protein shakes. Where are you getting your protein from?
Yeah. You can't just eat vitamin supplements, drink vitamin supplements like Louis does, right? Yep. It's wonderful. And quite frankly, I look forward to the point when Legosi is able to eat meat and have it be a good thing.
wait. So what like, but then what part of this is him integrating the shadow then? If he's, because then isn't he in self-deception then that he should be training not necessarily to not eat the meat? It's then a thing of where I will not eat this meat until I then specifically can say that I don't need it.
Right.
But I will then go and eat it.
Right. It's the
at a later point?
Yeah, because his body needs it, but the thing is that his mind, like his body has demands that eventually will need to be fulfilled or he will be in trouble, right?
But that's his whole life thus far.
Yes.
He's never eaten herbivore meat.
Right, but if you're talking about, training his body, if he wants to also train his body and do all those things, right? Then there will probably come a point where he will need to actually have meat of some variety. Right? And who knows? Maybe the story will take it in the direction that he doesn't. But the big problem is that if he were to eat that meat right now, it would be a violation of some deeply held ideal, right?
So he needs to let go of that ideal eventually.
Right, but the ideal is there for a very good reason, in that I don't want to just be a wild animal.
Right. Yeah, right now I think what we're dealing with Legosi is almost a reminder that this story is going to go on for quite a while, is that Legoshi's problem is mostly due to his own maturity and the way he sees the world.
Sure.
It's not really his approach as much as that's where you're disagreeing with me, because I've been saying that I think a part of his approach is wrong. And it's like, no. For where he's at right now, his approach is actually going to be very helpful in the long term, because it will build, in some ways, his mental fortitude so that when he has to make those difficult choices, he makes it within his own bounds of self-control.
Exactly. Yep.
He's denying society right now so that later, when it really, really is difficult and it really matters, he can then make the really difficult choice that might even be the lesser of two evils, possibly. Unintended.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that perspective on this, because I'm just, I think, skipping a little bit of that middle point in my mind and saying this ultimately will not lead you directly to that point.
This won't be the thing that fixes everything.
You have to snake your way through all this. And thus, I think that's kind of what Gohin is also looking at this here, is the patience of an adult going, I get what you want, Legosi. But this is ultimately going to have to be thrown away in like 6 months or so.
Yeah, you can't.
It'll help you maybe for the mental fortitude stuff.
But this is not directly sustainable. You can't sleep in front of a slab of beef forever, right? Like, you're probably not getting very good sleep. You're definitely not getting fed properly. Like, I love that how much of Legosi looking smaller is because of just the fur being cut, so he's slimmer. And then also, diet, dude. Conquer your instincts, but you can't exactly conquer your body in that kind of way.
Right. I definitely see it as the kind of suffering that like some kind of monk would go through for the purpose of, well, you can call it suppression or mastery or whatever, but the ultimate thing is there's a denial of self.
Right.
Which is kind of like suppression in a lot of ways, but it is for the purpose of mastery of self.
Right.
It is something that when you reintegrate back into society, you have to then balance against the fact that you can't be in total denial of self. Because, well, that's, you know.
Right. There's denying oneself and there's being in denial of oneself.
Yes,
and I think the main difference I would say between suppression and facing and conquering the thing is that the end result of suppression is basically pretending that the problem doesn't exist. In some way, shape, or form. Not necessarily in an absolute sense, but it's basically it's not giving it its proper due. Right, and that's why it's so unhealthy, because the problem exists for a reason. It's addressing some issue that isn't being met, right? But since you've got to, Legosi still has to and wants to go on this journey. He wants to defeat this side of himself.
Yeah.
Then figure out how you can put that down when you need to, but that's not something that you do forever. That's something so that not now, not in this way. You know?
An example of this that I think kind of perfectly kind of encapsulates the problem I have with where this leads ultimately for Legosi and why I think he's going to end up killing someone, and I think it's going to be a herbivore, is just the idea that ultimately it's a bit naive to assume that this is power that he only needs to protect herbivores. It's that it's ultimately something so that you will be able to control and master yourself. And thus, his idea that he's doing this for others will lead to him probably harming others because he's not actually doing this entirely for just like the mastery of himself.
Well, yeah,
which I think he should be at the base level. Like,
yeah, you could say that it has kind of already harmed others in it harmed Jack,
Yes.
in a way, right? It depending on how hard it's taking the lack of screen time and time with Legosi, it could be harming her,
it could
who knows?
Be, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really excited though for him to be the main like struggle for this part of the story, because when they brought in things with like Bill and a couple other characters as well, I really, really liked that. But I always felt like Legosi kind of didn't get to go into the struggle.
The dark night of the soul.
Yeah, exactly. As much as I would have wanted.
Gotcha.
And the fact that he's actively seeking that out, I'm really excited about that. So,
yeah.
Okay. But then we've got a gun pointed at a deer from their not son.
I gotta say, I love how that scene went down just from the entertainment standpoint, but also
the way it looked.
Oh, the way it looked was
that was
great.
So cool.
Oh yeah, and I love that we're getting his dad as a character in the show. Like
outside of the backstory.
Right, outside of the backstory. Like that's good stuff. But I also got to say, their dynamic, I appreciate the dynamic because there's a mutual understanding, basically. While they don't understand each other perfectly, like Louis was kind of like surprised of like, wait, hold on, you only see me once a month for dinner. Like, what's
going on?
What's going on? Why are you opposed to this?
Yeah.
But then at the same time, it's okay. Let's communicate as adults
so that we know where each other stands.
We know where each other stands, right? There was no ill will, basically, that I detected, right? This has been our dynamic. It's a bit of a farce. Let's talk about it, honestly, right? And I'm sure they disagree. They very much do disagree, hence the gun pointed at the head. But, it's good, honest communication.
Yeah, the aspect of this where the father figure, because he's not actually his dad, was like, yes, it's been 13 years since the day that I bought you for $7 million. I regret to say that it was a failed investment.
That was Louis that said the failed investment part.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Oh, so then Louis responds that it was a failed investment. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. And he's just like, what went through your little head that day? Like the way he talks about how clearly he remembers it and looking back on Louis with those adorable doe eyes. Yeah, doe eyes. Yeah. Like,
I mean, yeah, doe is
male deer.
female
it's a female deer.
Yeah.
He's a male deer, but
whatever.
whatever. But like, I love it. I love it. I totally believe that this relationship that was so whatever it was at the beginning, right, has gotten complicated in its own special way, right? And now they'll have to communicate about that. So, yeah.
I love the idea that this cold, calculating businessman with his Gendo Ikari poses and everything is looking at the fully grown man of Louis and just going, huh, I remember so clearly what it was like to see you as a child.
Yeah.
And here I behold you and who you are, and I'm silent. So he gives Louis nothing.
Right.
And the part that I almost am impressed by this is that I see no fear. I see no worry. I see no pride almost in the strength of the son. And that was
something that I really appreciated.
And it makes him someone that in some ways Louis can't ever kill. Because in a weird, twisted way, I almost see Louis looking at this guy and just being like, you're something that I don't know if I'll ever understand. But is that because you have a lot in there that's there to understand, but you refuse to give it to me for some, like, ego reason or what have you? But even if there's nothing there, I almost want to pull it out.
Yeah.
I want to see it. I want to see it come out. I'm going to have to put on maybe such a display of power and strength that I force it out of you. But until that point, no, there's no way I can kill you. There's no way I can touch you.
And if anything, the fact that he pulled the gun on him, that goes to show Louis still growing. Because
well, of course he is.
Yeah. Right. But like he was dealing with Louis as a peer. You know, of he started, there was no guard up, right? He started with basically vulnerability. You know, of just that I had like, oh man.
Yeah.
I'm glad this is the day the child got to see the outside.
Yeah,
you know?
I think about that, and I think that's a very sentimental kind of thing to think back on. But the fact that over the course of this time, he doesn't really give anything in response. That feels to me like someone who has that mastery over themselves.
Sure.
And yet they're realizing maybe how much, this is the most positive way I could spin this ever, is that he's realizing how much influence he has over this one, over Louis. And he's like, if I give any kind of reaction here, I'll push him in a way that he's not necessarily supposed to.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's the only positive way I can look at this.
I want it to truly be his thing. And because in a lot of ways, like Louis is talking to him like, oh, you know, I'm wanting to go against your ideals. It's only natural that you would oppose me and all that stuff. Hence, he pulls out the gun. But in my mind, I would see his dad as seeing Louis as the ultimate success. Right? It's, what are you talking about? You know, yeah, it might not be the thing that I originally intended, but this is your day. Like you know, go for it. You know, like I might wish that you were doing things my way, but I can still make this work, for one, and two. Yeah, you're doing good, kid.
I feel like we got a little bit of only the first half of a conversation.
Yes, that is very
and
true.
That was something I was a little bit disappointed with because it felt like we were just getting a cliffhanger for the sake of a cliffhanger.
The gun is not the actual dramatic conclusion to this event.
Yeah, it's the fact that the guy never spoke after remembering that day.
Yep, and when he actually speaks on the topic at hand in this present day, it's going to be a lot more impactful than any gun or gunshot.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I think in a lot of ways he was being a little bit condescending to Louis. He wasn't treating him like a peer. Is just that the only way he's really addressing him is
by hearkening back to when he was a child. And if anything, it also shows Louis' own insecurities that he pulled out the gun.
Yeah,
because it's
definitely.
I don't want to have that conversation. Just sign the damn paper.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah.
Because
I came here to get what I want. That's it. I'm not going to give you anything else.
All those times
except I'm already kind of giving you a lot by my reactions and my
But like,
yeah.
all those times we had dinner, I never knew what you were thinking. And I kind of don't want to find out now.
Ooh, I like that.
Because I've been making my decisions separate from it, right? You know, like, yeah, I knew that there was the thing that you wanted
to
of
let you control
joining
that
your
now.
company or whatever, but I don't want that. Because when it comes right down to it, I do respect you and maybe I do care about you, right? Because you did help me. You pulled me out of hell. You gave me everything. You made me who I am today, regardless of whether there was the emotional care that I might have wanted.
Right. But I'm not a cog in your business.
I'm not a cog in your business,
I'm not a $7 million investment that's going to yield
and
you any resources.
Hence his whole statement of finally a rebellious phase. You know, isn't this a little late? You know, it's like, because in order, whatever Louis chooses, right, he has to fully separate himself from the parent in order for it to be his decision.
Oh, you know what's kind of sick and twisted?
Oh, yeah?
It's actually right on time. He said he bought him 13 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Think about it.
I mean, and then there's the whole thing of animals maturing at different rates. But
no. This is anthropomorphic. There's no correlation.
Right. They all go into high school, you know, around the same time.
Exactly.
And all that. Yeah.
So he's actually doing this right at his teen years.
Sure.
He wasn't really living until
Yeah.
he was picked up by this guy who's not his dad.
That's true.
So in a lot of ways, you know, what's father in Japanese? Yeah.
Otosan.
Otosan, yeah.
Or wait.
Tosan, yeah.
I think so.
This is exactly the time. This is exactly the time.
Also,
Ugh.
couldn't you just see it being, oh, no. Yes, I run a big business group and all that stuff, but, I mean, hey, having a mob that's also associated with us, there's probably a place for that.
I can use that.
I can use that, you know? Like,
yeah, it's a good point. Especially if Louis was the one saying that was a failed investment, I really was thinking, why did he say that it was a failed investment? Because
he's
gave
trying
us almost
to
nothing. It seems like you're trying to control him here. As like, whoa, he has power.
You don't have hold over me, you know?
Right.
Like, all right, you know that your money meant nothing, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, sucks for you. This is what I'm choosing.
But I gotta bring up my theory again.
Oh yeah.
This scene happening so early in the season means that the lion, who is very much kind of backing him up there, is going to become a father figure to him.
Oh, definitely.
In a way where I think the lion will need Louis more than Louis will need him.
Well, because
eventually.
So okay. I'm gonna springboard off of this.
But
and I know we've
I'm
been
basically done for discussion.
Yeah, and I know we've been talking for a while,
Yeah.
but in the same way that the Juno Louis situation, if they did end up becoming a thing, would be a nice reverse of Hara and Legosi, right? Of the you know, with the whole like carnivore herbivore dynamics and things like that, right?
Sure.
In this situation, the thing, in a lot of ways, what both Legosi and Louis are doing is a form of rebellion. Whether you're talking about against their parents or against society or against their own instincts, that's what it is. And they need to fully divorce themselves from that so that way they can then pick back up what is useful and good, right?
Divorce themselves from the rebellion.
Use the rebellion to divorce themselves from the thing that they need to be separated from, so that way, whatever of it they decide to latch onto later, it's a fully free decision, right?
Okay.
And so Legosi with his instincts, he's got to conquer the instincts. That way, he can hold on to whatever of it is usable, right? In Louis' case, he's got to separate from his father, right, and do the whole thing and become the leader of the Leo group and all that stuff. But then also separate himself from his herbivore instincts and stuff, truly become that strong carnivore, you know, in the world. But then the other side of that is that then he needs to acknowledge the strengths of being a herbivore, right? And accept that side of himself because it is a part of himself. And right now he's in the thing of I have to be strong. I have to be, you know, I'm dangerous, right?
No, eat your veggies, dude.
Eat your veggies.
Eat your veggies.
Eat your veggies.
And live.
Yeah, like that's they help you in ways that, you know, even though it's maybe a bit more boring, right? It's not as exciting.
And you might need to be chastised by your parent. The wolf, not the wolf. Sorry, the lion.
But the lion, yeah, exactly. And
I love that because it is ultimately like in a joking way, very joking way. It is basically like, no, you're being petulant. Eat your veggies and let's move on to the next day. Here.
From the last person that archetypally you would expect it from.
Right.
He's the carnivore, the lion, right? Talk about, you know, one of the apex predators out there, right? Telling the deer, no.
Be who you are.
Be who you are, eat your veggies. And also, he's the mob guy. You know, so the lion mob guy is going to teach the deer from the rich family, you know.
And like, I will not be caged by my instincts and
the
stuff.
only cages are in your own mind, my dude.
Yep.
You know, and
I want Legosi and Louis to come back to like encounter each other at some point later in this season, with them both having gone over the hurdles a little bit, where they both kind of look at each other and go, "Yo, hey," and then they turn towards some third party thing, side to side, and just walk towards
band walk,
with confidence, and it's just gonna be like, oh, that's gonna be so good. Yeah, exactly. But y'all, thank you so much for watching this episode's reaction and discussion. If you want to see the next episode's reaction and discussion right now, though, go check out the link in the description below for our Patreon. You can get an early access there. You can watch full-length timer reactions there, and all this comes with Discord access, so you can chat with us and the community there about this show, about anime in general, and also be sure to check out our Twitch channel.
We stream every weekday. Info's in the description.
Yeah, so if any of that interests you, we'll see you there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all next time.